This is Steve Colescott for Elite FTS. In April of 2014, we had Scott Stevenson in town visiting the Elite FTS offices. He caught a leg training session with John Meadows and Dave Tate. They used a variety of unique exercises and techniques, so I interviewed them afterwards about the workout and why they made those choices.
Scott Stevenson, and I am just about to start after this weekend. I'll have a nice, solid, steady, normal lifestyle where I can start a consistent diet. I think I'll be 11 weeks out from the Masters Nationals 2014.
And this is John Meadows. I'll be doing the same show, so I'll be 11 weeks out as well.
This is Dave Tate. I train with John. John actually does my programming. So actually the way it's fallen for the past few years, I'm dieting right now as well. And based upon the goals that we've set for myself, I'm probably 11, 12 weeks out. So we kind of set it out. So I mean, it's kind of cool that we're all falling in the same spot. They're going to end up much leaner than what I am, obviously, but that's not my goal. That's not what the intention is. But it's always worked out well because I can push John, and while I'm dieting, I kind of know how he feels because it's pretty close to how I'm feeling, and know when to push and when to back off.
Okay, you guys trained legs today. Did you have a pre-made plan before you came in, John?
The structure of the workout, I always have certain exercises in mind for each phase. Like I may have 3 exercises I'm thinking are potential for the first exercise. The second thing we do, I may have 3 things to choose from. The third thing we do, I may have 3 things to choose from. So I know what exercises fit. There's certain exercises I think that transition well into other ones. But that's about as far as I go. And then when I get here, you know, we start training. It's like, oh, you know what? This feels like this will be right today. So there's also an element of instinct involved too.
And there's some things that I do when he comes out to train because I think that everybody's a little bit of a creature of habit when it comes to training and the exercise selection that they do. So I'll wait and see what he wants to do, and then I'll try to find something close but similar, and then try to convince him to do that instead. So it's a little bit, it still falls within his plan. It's still the movement plane. It's still the same tempo. Everything's still the same, but it's different than what he would have planned. That way he doesn't become that creature of habit by doing the same things all the time.
Yeah, you know, a good example was our our last probably 4 back workouts. Dave is taking the exercises that I wanted to do and turn them into. We literally have not done what you would call a normal exercise for like a month for back. They've been, and my back's got, I'm always talking about how I never get sore. My back has actually gotten pretty sore the last month from these kind of unusual ways to do the exercises. And it's really nothing complicated. It's just kind of changing it a little bit to something we haven't done before. So.
And this, you know, part of that is this being his potential last show. He can't go in being normal John. He has to go in being a different John. He's got to bring something different to the show that he's ever brought before. So I purposely try to come up with things that I know that he's never done before. As long as he feels the muscle and feels like it works, I'm not saying he's doing exactly, I mean, we change things a hell of a lot before we zero in on an exercise because it's got to be targeting where he wants it to target, but we haven't done a standard normal back exercise in a month.
Okay, and Scott, how different is this than the training you've been doing?
Well, the obvious similarity is it's hard to sell training, which is what I like to do. I'm doing a training system that I've come up with where frequency is really on a premium. So there's one version of the program I may train back or legs or every major muscle group 4 times a week. I train legs. Today is Thursday? I train legs on Saturday, I train legs on Monday, and good workouts too, and we didn't know what we were going to do, so I kind of planned on doing something other than legs, but we trained legs again today. This is probably at least, I'd say twice the volume I would do. I would do this kind of volume, but spread it out over maybe 3 workouts. So this is maybe 3 times or twice.
Real quick, what did you do on Saturday and Monday? I'm interested.
I did, I wrote about the cluster sets,
yes.
The articles I wrote. So Saturday, I think I did a cluster set, a muscle round set for hack squat, and I was at another gym out of town, so I like to go and test out new machines. I did an old hack squat, the one that the members said we want to keep this one, So you always got to use those machines because those are the good ones.
Yeah.
And then I did a knee extension, I think a stride knee extension that varies the,
Oh, yeah.
and then a stride hamstring curl, and then I did a horizontal leg press. And then I did actually train calves. I think I did adductors that day too. So I did 3 muscle rounds for calves, 3 machines. And then I did the same sort of workout. This was supposed to be kind of my deloading week, so to speak. So I did, I think, I did 1 leg press, a horizontal leg press on Monday. And then I did a knee extension and a hamstring curl, muscle round for each. And then I did a leverage leg press after that. And then I did 3 sets of muscle rounds for calves. I think I did a standing when I was in Georgia, and then I did a couple horizontal calf raises and seated. So I just picked 3 different machines to do calves. So cool. And I did calves on the day before with an occlusion set too. So we didn't train calves today, but I fit.
Well, we're deloading calves.
Yeah, there you go. I needed it.
Okay, you guys started out with leg curls, which is kind of typical in John's workouts. Did you go into this with any particular plan, or is this different than what you'd normally do?
No, just get a pump. Just get a lot of blood in our hamstrings. That's it. That is the only goal.
Okay. And Scott, you did. You seem to do a little bit more stretching. Is that something that you put a little more thought into?
Yeah. I tend to get tight. I can tell if I don't stretch. John and I talked about this. Someone he's interviewed before, Ian King, kind of has the same philosophy that I do, is that you want to have as many, you want to have flexibility about a joint, as many degrees of freedom as possible, so that you can have good proprioception that allow the joint to line up as it naturally should. So if you tend to have, let's say you tend to have tight hamstrings that tend to bring the knee joint into a certain type of alignment, that's not necessarily the best thing for your knee joint. You could potentially be, over the course of years or just in that workout, creating a situation where you're going to have a problem with your knee joint. So I like to try to stretch everything out so that the normal proprioceptive mechanisms that keep your knee joint aligned, patellofemoral joint as well, aligned, can be active and aren't restricted by tension across the tendon or even elsewhere. I try to loosen everything up as much as I can. I also tend to feel if I'm doing an exercise and I haven't stretched out, I get those little muscle tremors, little strange aches and pains, the things that are telling me that this may be an injury waiting to happen. So the stretching is something, I've been doing that as long as I can remember. I mean, it's not the greatest for strength. There are some studies suggesting that if you really overstretch too much, you can probably dampen a stretch reflex, and it's not going to help with performance. But I'm not trying to set any records or win any powerlifting meets or anything like that in the gym. I'm trying to stimulate the muscle to make it grow, and continue to do that year after year. So I want to have injury-free training that stimulates what I'm trying to do. I'm not worried about whether I use 405 or 455 on a squat or whatever it may be. So it just feels right for me to stretch is really the bottom line.
Okay, you guys did a lot of partials at the end as the wrap up. Talk a little bit about how you guys did this, and it also looked like you were pushing and kind of keeping your toes back at the end. Some of you.
Yeah.
And why?
Well, the partials are reserved. That's just a high intensity technique. That's reserved for your very last working set. It's just a way to extend the set, get more blood in the muscle. What you saw when our legs were straight, when you saw Dave pulling up, it was literally just to make our legs as straight as possible. Again, full range of motion, and then we were at that point fatigued, so we cut that range of motion down into a partial. But even though we were fatigued, we still got that stretch. Sometimes we'll do iso tension reps, and like in that case, we would have curled the weight maybe 3 inches, and then somebody would have held it in place, and you would have just pushed isometrically against the resistance. It's the toe, forcing the dorsiflexion on the foot just kind of stretches your calves out. Your hamstrings attached at the knee joint. It's just a good way to stretch your hamstrings all the way down into your calves. It's not like you feel an intense hamstring burn when you do that stretch, but it's still good. still basically stretches your hams and your calves all around the back of your knee joints. So it kind of goes to what Scott said. It's, you're working through a full range of motion, and at our age, we're thinking hypertrophy, but we're also thinking, how am I going to feel 5 years from now, 10 years from now? So if you got that, if you're strong at the stretch position, your joints are a little freer, then you're probably going to be healthier 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So there's also a health aspect to it.
One of the reasons why I was pushing on the toes is the hamstrings are only going to be able to contract and work through a range of motion dependent upon how tight or how loose the calves are. So if the calves are really, really tight and restricted, you're never going to be able to get that full range of motion throughout the hamstrings because the calves are restricting that. Now you don't want to go and stretch a cold muscle. So it was on the very last set that I can pull them up and then push forward to try to open the calves up a little bit and then have them do more repetitions for the hamstrings, which is going to get more blood into the hamstrings that typically wouldn't get there, because while it may only be a little bit more range of motion, it's more of a range of motion than he got on any set preceding that, because we were able to open the calves up a little bit, which does open up how much we can work that muscle through that range of motion. It's like trying to stretch your hamstrings without stretching your calves first. To me, that would be a mistake. You want to make sure your calves are stretched out before you even begin to stretch your hamstrings. Otherwise, you're always limited to the flexibility of what the calves are. But I would not do it on the first set by any means whatsoever.
Yeah, the stretching we do, the high intensity techniques, all that stuff, you'll notice that stuff is always done on the pumped muscle.
And you got to be sweating, pumped. You got to be almost knock-kneed when you walk. You got to be fatigued.
Yeah.
Okay. The second exercise you did, I'm not sure if you've named it. It's like a one-legged hamstring quasi-isometric bridge.
Just around
That's exactly, yeah, that's it.
Well, this is an exercise where I told Dave, just pick whatever you think. And an isometric contraction is a contraction, and we actually sprinkle in isometric stuff more and more here in the last 6 months. So that's what Dave picked. And, you can talk about it, but, you can vary your foot position. You can do all kinds of things depending on what head of the hamstring you want to work.
It's actually, I threw it in there because Eric Serrano asked me to do it because of the plantar fasciitis, and I got to throw it in there anyhow. Works the shit out of my hamstrings. One of the things that I'm seeing, you got to keep in mind with my training right now, my only goal is to get lean. I'm going to look like whatever I'm going to look like. I'm going to end up looking like shit. I got things tore off. I am going to be when I'm going to be. So I got to focus on, where I can help him, because how he looks does matter. His hamstrings, when he flexes them right, and it's in the right position, that thing hangs. It hangs like fucking horse balls. It just hangs like you can't believe. And I saw this
You need
as
a comparison pic.
anytime I can find an exercise that's going to be able to allow John to feel himself flex that muscle better, it's gonna help him, especially when it's in a slight knee bent position, which in the position that we were in there is very, very close to what his leg would be in a side chest shot. So if I can get him to be able to flex and to learn how to flex and what position, knee in, knee out, he's going to be able to get the best flex from with that. That's only going to help how that hang's going to look when he gets on stage, especially when he goes to pull it against the other leg. So it's not the only reason why, but that was part of the reason why I selected that. Is I want to see him get up there and that shit just hang like, horse balls, bigger than horse. And it is. When halfway, after 2 sets, he got up and he's like, look at this. And it's like, holy crap, that's more than we've ever seen. And that's just tying in that ability to learn how, he already knows how to flex the muscle. All right, we're just trying to take it to a little bit higher level. And I think some of that quasi-isometric work that we were doing will help accomplish that.
And the thing with those isometrics, we were doing 5 sets of 5 seconds.
Yeah, we were trying all different things too, if you've noticed.
Yeah.
We tried foot forward, you had some ideas and different
Yeah.
foot positions. So we're playing around to find where the greatest contraction is.
But those weren't easy. It wasn't like, picking up an orange and holding it for 5
Oh,
seconds.
no, it was a pain. I was cramping.
Yeah, that was a near maximal effort by the end of that 5th one.
Yeah.
So that was high effort, that was high intensity, but isometrics. And you can get muscle growth from isometrics. There's numerous studies that show that. You don't always have to have lengthy contraction or concentric contractions. Isometrics will work, and those are high intensity. That's a new way of stimulating muscle growth. So not conventional, but it will work.
Had you done anything like that before, Scott?
I've done lots of isometric holds. Actually, DC training, dog crab training, which I did for years and years. I mean, probably 8 years straight. Dante has people do a cluster set, which he calls a rest pause set. He kind of borrowed that term from Mike Menser, but it's his own way of doing it. And typically you go to failure 3 times, and then you take a 12, 15 breath break, and then you do a hold up to 30 seconds as long as you can. So yeah, I've probably done isometric holds like that probably 1,000 times over the years, but not like this. This was a new thing, the back and forth. So.
Okay, after that, you guys did the Bulgarian split squat, and Dave, this was your first single leg movement in a while.
This is all him, man. I was told after my hip replacement I never needed to do another single leg exercise in my life, and Buddy Morris told me that, and I was happy as hell. John busts out this single leg shit, and I did it. You know what? I'll step back and say I'm happy that I was able to do it. I haven't done a single leg exercise for years, so just to be able to do 4 or 5 sets of 10, I was happy with that. These guys took it to a whole nother level. Hopefully, if we continue using that movement in 4 or 5 weeks, I'd like to be able to do what they're doing. But right now, it's for me, I didn't see that as being something that I wanted to risk, or the risk-benefit ratio is a little bit too high for the first time with the fake hip.
I agree.
But they killed it. I mean, they went after it, and it's something that I'm not too sure I'd ever want to do, but I'll let you guys talk about that one.
Oh yeah, that was brutal. That was one of
That was
those
the hardest part of the workout.
That was one of those painful things I've done in a while. If you got to understand kind of the context of the workout today, because we have a little heavier base workouts where we're doing more leg presses and squats and more conventional stuff. This is what we call a pump workout, and so we're not using a lot of weight. We're going more for feel, more for pump. So you got to kind of think about that too, as you think about what we're doing today. This is a complementary workout day. It complements the heavier base day. And I mean, really, you can see on the video, it's just, it's a Bulgarian split squat. And we just did 3 or 4 working sets, and then we did a drop set. And what we were trying to do was
do a 10-second isometric hold
at the end of every 10 reps. And I didn't quite make it toward the end. I just couldn't. But you try, though. You try to do it, and you do the best you can. And what does Ron Burgundy say? It's a deep burn.
It was awesome to coach.
Yeah. It's great to watch.
I love the pain.
Yeah, it was very painful. But so just brutal exercise, and just think about the context. It would also be good on a heavier base day if you made it your 3rd or 4th exercise. Actually, you could even pre-exhaust with it and squat. That probably would hurt even worse.
It'd be hard to do after doing a couple of real heavy leg things. So.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, because we were fresh on our quads. We had just done hamstring work, so that allowed us to work hard on that.
For those that have never done a split squat, what angles are we looking for in the lead, back, knee, and hip?
Play around with it. You might have your tibia and fibula might be freaking this long or might be this long. Just play around with it. Move your foot position up, move it back, push off your heel. When you drop down, you can kind of drop down and even sit back into it. You can keep your spine straight and drop straight down. Just play with it. Dave can probably explain this better than me, but just don't twist your spine.
The 2 things I watch, and I'm a technique Nazi on everything, is I don't want to see any twisting, especially when there's anything moving on a sagittal plane, and I want the head to be in line with the spine, a neutral spine. So I don't want the head down.
And that's I forget that a lot.
Yeah, so
notice Dave's
I'll tell them to put their head up. It's the little things that you get hurt on. You never get at our age and experience, you're never going to get hurt on the major thing. because you're going to be tight, you're going to be mentally ready, you're going to be focused. You're going to get hurt doing something stupid, by looking down on the third drop set using 15 pounds of a Bulgarian split squat. You happen to look down, twist a little bit, and you pop your back out, and you're fucked for 4 weeks. So those are the little things that I look at is, you know, the head position and the twisting. The rest you just go to town on.
Okay. If one of you two could talk about that the drop set, the weights you used, the rep range you're going for, and then how I think you guys did a super slow negative at the end.
It was an isometric hold.
It's an isometric hold.
Yeah. Well, I mean, John set out that the rep and isometric rep ranges and the isometric hold pattern. We're doing 4 stages, 4 sets, and frankly, by the time we got to the last one, because I think you weren't quite getting 10 on that third one.
The third one I couldn't get 10.
And I think I might have gotten 10, but they weren't continuous, or maybe I didn't get 10. By that fourth one, basically that was just go for the gusto, just get everything you possibly can, be safe, keep your body in a good position, and try to just torch the muscle. This is what I was thinking. I'm going to try to hang in there and get a muscle contraction as long as I can. So looking for time under tension is another way to express that. In an ideal situation, if you were like an utter complete form Nazi, they would have been 10 perfectly tempoed up and down repetitions, full range of motion with a 10-second hold on the fourth one. But that simply wasn't possible. I think on that first one one of the ones we filmed, Dave's just like, drop the weight and just stand up. And that took me like 4 seconds to do. So this wasn't exactly one of those situations where, you know, perfect reps are going to happen. But you can create a tremendous stimulus because you're basically trying to activate everything you possibly can. But just want to be safe. That's why it's great to have guys like this saying, keep your head up, you know, keep your good position, et cetera, et cetera. And it's also nice because there's nothing but body weight or a 15-pound weight. And you do have a back leg that you can rely on somewhat. If you're doing a squat and you've got hundreds of pounds on your back or heavy leg press, not always the best idea to get down there and play in that somewhat vulnerable position. But we had a bar to hold on to, we had another leg to rely on, and just body weight. So to me, it felt safe. I wouldn't probably tell someone who's just been doing that, just been training for a couple of years, do try something like that, because they probably wouldn't have the body sense, especially in that extremely fatigued position with no one watching them to be able to do that safely. But we've been beating ourselves up for a while, so that was my personal goal, was just destroy it.
Yeah,
just
that's
kill
it. That's it.
Yeah.
Just here's the target, try to hit it, get as close as you can.
Yeah.
You know, that exercise has not been one of my favorites because of balance. So if you notice, we're doing it and we've got one hand holding on to something. That's key to me. I mean, I see people doing these all the time and they're just shifting and they just can't get set, or they're holding 2 dumbbells and they come up and they kind of lose their balance. And that never really made sense to me. It's like almost like doing a squat on a Bosu pull or something. It's like, why do you want to do something where you can't even stay balanced? You know, so that's going to compromise your ability to work hard. Instead of thinking I'm going to kill my muscle, I'm thinking I hope I don't fall on my face. So, you know, we set it up so that we could hold that. We were holding the squat rack, so we didn't have to worry about balance. We can just go to town. Mm-hmm. So that's a way, you know, we like to take exercises and make them even better. And that's a good example of taking a normal exercise, in my opinion, and making it even better. Allowing for balance, stability, you know, without standing there shaking, twisting something.
Okay. And you had to wrap your leg. What was?
I have a poor groin. It's I
Some of the horse balls.
Yeah. I got so much stuff to carry around. It's strange. No,
That's a soundbite for you right there.
I got quite the load here. No, I slipped on the ice in the winter and pulled my groin, is the truth. So that's a slow recovering injury. So I was just wrapping my groin because it's a little strained still from the winter. So that was it. It wasn't occlusion training. I know a lot of people wonder if it was occlusion training.
Right.
No, that wasn't occlusion training. That was don't rip your groin off training.
Okay, when you guys finished up that exercise, that was the point I noticed you guys took a different stance. You walked slower, you walked with your feet wider. Tell us how you felt after that exercise. Where were you at physically?
Oh, it hurt, man. It hurt. You know, your legs are so full of blood, you feel like you're walking you feel like a tool. Like you're walking like how you would normally make fun of people to walk like that. That's you. You're the one that's walking like that. So, yeah, the muscle's just full of blood. You know, and I'm thinking, thank God that's over, because that really hurt. And, you know, that's pretty much it. So,
Well, the one thing about those split squats, and this addresses the stance where you put your foot and playing around with foot position, is that you can drive up using more hamstring and glutes if you want. You can change your body position, or you can come forward a little bit and use more quad. And during that last drop set, one of the things I was trying to do, I could feel, okay, the glute's getting hit here. There's not going to be much left. I'm going to have to use my quad more. And I was basically knowingly, intentionally trying to make sure that I used whatever muscle mass was fresh, and it all got torched. So walking away afterwards, basically locomotion was barely possible. So yeah, that's why. I mean, you're just kind of stumbling basically at that point.
Okay, after that you went on to hack squat, which was seemed to be the heavier movement. Tell us what the game plan was going into that, John.
I really, really like full range of motion hack squats on pumped quads. And that absolutely gave us pumped quads. And again, this was a pump day, so we actually really weren't going that heavy. We were doing sets of 8, but they weren't tremendously heavy. Our last set, which was a really hard set, I think Scott did 20 reps. I think I did 16. Dave did a drop set where I think he did, it was either 4 or 5 sets of 6. So he was up in the 20 or 30 rep range. So those were actually, I mean, that was actually a pump exercise for us. Not real heavy, but we all were using a real good full range of motion. We were all dropping into it real deep. So that was the game plan. Use a little bit lighter weight, but get a good full range of motion and just pump quads up even more. You know, the more pumped they are, the better you've executed with the goals for this day in mind.
The next two things, these are things that you guys do all the time, but it'd be good to kind of explain to people that might not have thought about it. You seem to do continuous tension, no locking out. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we use a lot of continuous tension on hack squats. We'll do as many reps as we can without stopping. And then when you know you're going to bottom out and you stop, you take a couple breaths. This is kind of similar to your cluster sets in a way. I mean,
It's a discontinuous set.
Yeah. You're giving yourself a little bit of a break, knock a few out. Scott did a lot of those on his set, so that's a real marker of intensity. You go to as many as you can do, you lock it out, you take a few breaths, you do a few more, you lock it out, you take a few breaths. Man, the deeper you get into that, the higher your intensity is. That's why Scott only did one set. That's why I only did one real hard set for me. Those sets are really tough. You know, sometimes people will see on the videos the sets we do like that, and, you know, they'll think, wow, they did 3 or 4 sets like that. No, we just worked up to that, and then we really, you know, try to go to town on that last set. And that was and that's what we did on this. We were just doing sets of 8, working our way up, and then we had a weight that would be good for about 20 solid reps, and then boom, we work really, really hard and go as hard as you can.
And even though it's still a machine and it is, you're taking a lot of the stability out of it, you still need to brace yourself. You still need to keep your spine braced. So if you're so fatigued that you can't breathe, and you're breathing hard and you can't catch your breath, you're going to lose a lot of that tightness. So a lot of that stopping and getting your breath is also to be able to maintain, the body position that you're going to need to be able to get the next 1 or 2 reps as well. So. And even with that, I don't think any of us are completely locking out when we're at the top trying to get our breath. There's still some slight knee bend to keep some tension on the muscle, not completely off. But for me, it's mostly about bracing and breathing, because I don't want to just keep going. I could force myself to do more, but then I'm going to risk, is my butt going to start to come away from the machine? Am I going to strain my back? And those type of things. But what looks like rest really isn't rest.
Okay, Dave, you guys always have the orange band deload. Tell people the benefit of that.
Both the hack squat and the leg press that we have here, they're prototypes. So actually almost everything in this gym is prototypes. So we have them in here, and before we even bring it to market, we'll use it for 4 to 6 months before it comes out. The reason why we have the reverse bands on the hack squat is the cradle alone probably weighs about 400 pounds. So I want some deload at the bottom because I don't want that bottom position to be the same as what the top is, because that's where the greatest strain and stress is on your knee and your lower back. So if we can deload that position a little bit and then bring the weight back at the top, that's all the greater benefit. It's also at a higher angle than what a lot of other hack squats are. A lot of other hack squats are going to be at a lower angle, so you can use a ton of weight, but you're basically laying down when you're doing it. Being at a higher angle makes it a lot harder too. So we're at a higher angle with a lot heavier cradle, so it's just to try to take some of the force out of the bottom. The leg press is kind of the same way. You know, it's at a lot higher angle, and we want to deload. I think the leg press cradle is 450 pounds, you know, by itself. So I try to set the bands to deload so the cradle is at 0, and then whatever the weight is whatever the weight is.
Okay. You guys went on to leg extensions after that. Moderate weight, you had 245s on there. And at this point, it looked like some of you guys had trouble locking out. So pump was pretty good there. You guys also did burns at the end, and each of you did the burns a little bit differently. I don't know if you guys are aware of that.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that, Scott?
John kind of muttered, tried to get sets of 20, and with the first set I couldn't even get 20. I think I got like 15, and that was it. Doing continuous reps, not discontinuous. I probably could have cranked out 20. The next set would have been even more pitiful. So I did 15, and then basically I was just trying to hang in there with what John was doing as best I could. I think one of the sets, I decided to just do 21s. So I hit 7 up the top, 7 at the bottom, and then I tried to get 7. I ended up doing kind of 7 in the middle. And that at least gave me 20 reps. They weren't full range of motion, but it extended the time under tension, et cetera, et cetera. So that was basically my effort to try to do as close to what John had suggested, but I was unable to do it because the legs were just way too fatigued. So
Yeah, I was when I do those, what I did today and what I do a lot of times is I'm dorsiflexing my foot real hard, and I'm trying to put more tension in my rectus femoris, kind of my upper quad. My lower quads tend to be better than my upper quads, so that's what I was trying to do, and I try to lock them out and just flex that upper quad, pull my toes back, but then fatigue sets in, and that becomes a nice wish, but it doesn't really happen. So I do as many of those as I can, then once fatigue sets in, it's just, okay, just keep the weight moving, and then you get to where you can only do partials. Okay, just keep the weight moving and get your number. So that's kind of what's going on there.
I'm laughing at these guys, man. You know, you're being all cerebral about fucking leg extension. I'll be straight up honest. After my last set of hack squats, I was fucking a zombie, man. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see. My eyes are probably still bloodshot right now. I just did whatever the fuck I had to do to get done. You know, I don't even know what I do. I do as many as I can do normal, and then I'll do as many as I can do that are partial. How partial they are, I don't fucking know, and how many I did normal, I don't know. I have no idea what the fuck they were doing. I just stayed in the rotation, and I'm just hanging on for dear life at that point, just hoping that John says, okay, we're done, and he never does. You know, you think it's gonna be 2 sets, and it's 10, you know, so I wasn't fucking thinking anything. I was just kicking my feet up, hoping it'd be over soon. We should have cerebral like you're thinking about.
We should have pulled the cattle
You
prod
weren't thinking
out.
anything. You would have just fucking kicking your legs up like anybody else. There's 2 plates for Greg's sake.
And it was heavy.
It was hard.
That was a heavy 2 plates.
Yeah.
yeah, I guess when it takes you 8 seconds just to get it in the machine,
Yeah. Then you can't get out.
you can't even get out of it.
And then John jumps in for another set. Good God. Is this going to ever end?
This was actually today.
This is a pump day.
This was a pretty low volume day. When you think about it, this was actually a low volume day.
Yeah, it was a low volume.
Just flop around like a fish fighting for your life, as long as you can.
Low volume only took them 2 hours.
Yeah, this was a low volume. I definitely would call this a low volume day.
Yeah, it was low volume.
The last thing you did was a hip adduction. What was the game plan there, John? You went pretty high reps.
Rehab a pulled groin. I mean, that's all I was doing. Lightweight, get blood into the area so it heals. That was it. I was just trying to rehab my strained groin. I mean, that's a good thing to do anyway for your adductors. And I was really good about doing that 2 years ago, and I kind of got away from it, and that's when my groin started pulling again. So I need to get back to doing that.
I always do adduction and glute press ever since I had my hip replaced. You know, I need to keep that area strong. I may only do 1-2 sets, but I'm doing it every time I'm in here.
You know, the thing I mentioned to John, you look at the greatest legs ever in bodybuilding, Tom Platz. You really look close at his legs, he's got everything's awesome, but his adductors are ridiculous. And that's probably from squatting to a certain degree. Not everyone's going to squat and get that kind of development, press and get that kind of development, but you can develop your adductors doing the adductor, doing the yes-no machine, as I like to call it. It will work. So you can add a really tremendous dimension to your legs, to your thighs by doing adductor. So I end up doing, I think, a rest pause set that way. A little bit heavier than what John was doing because I don't have a groin pull right now, at least. So I take advantage of that and trying to train them heavy to make them grow. And I've noticed a difference over the years when I've been doing those regularly. So that was my approach of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just to wrap it up, how would you say the training session went? How would you characterize it?
Well, it was good. I mean, if I look at the goal was for it to be a pump day. My number one goal is to not get hurt.
I know you say that.
Don't get injured.
That's what I said, yeah.
You know, that's number one. And I didn't get injured. You know, again, the goal of this workout being to pump as much blood in there as we can. Work hard. So we did those things, so I would consider it a success. The goal of these workouts, again, is not to increase how much weight we're doing or what have you. So, you know, again, with this being a complementary workout to the heavier base workout, I mean, this was good. This is what we set out to do.
I agree. That was the first thing John asked me, how do your legs feel? I said, I'm just happy I didn't get injured. And I got away with it 3 times in like the last week. So, you know, I was happy with that too. This is fun. I love doing this kind of training like this. I would much rather come in and just blast the holy heck out of the muscle mass, but when you're training as regular as I can, as I do as frequently, I can't get away with that. Obviously, if I try to train legs again in 2 days, it wouldn't be very pretty. It wouldn't last very long. But this is a lot of fun. I enjoy these quite a bit. So